Hello chatters and gamers, and I hope this video finds you well. As we look back on Pride Month here in 2025, I wanted to take a moment to talk about something that's been on my mind for the past several days. I was recently hanging out in a live stream with a couple fellow streamers, names not important, and we were happily enjoying a fantastic evening of catching up on a game we've enjoyed together in the past, which had finally come out into full release. I noticed, however, that someone had taken exception to an emote I've long had on my channel, which you can see here. They recognized, rightfully so, that it bore a resemblance to the pink triangle symbol that was used in the Nazi German concentration camp, prisoner identification, and segregation system that identified homosexual men and boys. It started as a label meant to isolate, to dehumanize, and to kill. A small pink triangle stitched onto the uniforms of prisoners of the state, marking them as homosexual under the Nazi regime. But today, you'll see it waving proudly at pride marches, displayed on queer-friendly businesses, and even tattooed on the bodies of LGBTQ activists. So, what changed? This is the story of how a symbol of shame became a cry of defiance, and a legacy of queer resistance. Under Adolf Hitler's regime, Germany intensified its enforcement of paragraph 175, a law criminalizing male homosexuality. Between 1933 and 1945, over 100,000 men were arrested under the jurisdiction of the paragraph, which stated, "Unnatural fornication, whether between persons of the male sex or of humans with beasts, is punished with imprisonment of 6 months to 4 years, with a further punishment of a prompt loss of civil rights." Although this had been part of the legal code since the days of the German Confederation in 1871, no previous regimes had enforced it with nearly the same zeal as the Nazi regime, who quickly raised the severity of conviction under 175 to a felony. In the concentration camps, those arrested under paragraph 175 were forced to wear a pink triangle on their clothing, distinct from the yellow stars worn by Jews, or the green triangles for so-called criminals, for example. And for many, the pink triangle marked them not just for punishment, but for annihilation. Historians estimate that as many as 48,000 adult men and 4,700 boys were convicted and imprisoned in camps. Their treatment was especially brutal, targeted for beatings, castration, medical experimentation, and often death. The pink triangle was not just a badge, it was a death sentence. And when the camps were liberated, survivors came home, if they were allowed to. Because unlike other victims of the concentration camps, many gay men and youths were not recognized as persecuted. Paragraph 175 remained law in both West and East Germany. In 1957, East Germany stopped enforcing paragraph 175, and it fully abolished the statute in 1968. However, the law remained in effect in the West until after reunification in 1994. Some gay men and boys were even rearrested during the post-war years. The trauma endured as the victims of institutionalized homophobia were silenced by stigma. But silence couldn't last forever. In the 1970s, a new generation of queer activists, inspired and influenced directly by the survivors of this state oppression, began to reclaim the pink triangle. What had once been a mark of persecution was turned outward into a political weapon, a banner of solidarity. In West Germany, LGBTQ activists revived the triangle as a way to confront the state and remember forgotten victims. And across the Atlantic, it appeared in the United States, in underground zines, hand-drawn signs, and public protest. Wearing it was no longer about shame. Instead, it was about saying, "We will not be erased again." Then came the 1980s, and with it, a new crisis: the AIDS epidemic. As the epidemic devastated queer communities, governments remained silent. The pink triangle re-emerged once more, but this time it came with the message: silence equals death. Activist groups like ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, adopted the triangle, now inverted, to demand attention, action, and justice. The iconic "Silence Equals Death" poster placed the pink triangle at the center of a bold declaration: if we do not speak, we will die. If we do speak, we may live. The triangle became a rallying point, a symbol of mourning and of militant hope. Today, the pink triangle lives on, in memorials carved into city streets, in artwork, in protest banners, and in the quiet corners of queer memory. In San Francisco, a hillside installation overlooks the Castro district. In Berlin, it marks the sites of past atrocities. And around the world, it stands as both warning and witness. But as with any reclaimed symbol, it also sparks debate. Some ask, can we truly take back a mark of such violence? And others worry that commercialization, the pink triangle appearing on t-shirts and other merchandise, risk dulling its edge. And yet for many, its meaning remains sharp. It tells a story of suffering, yes, but also of survival and of defiance. The pink triangle is more than just a shape. It's a history folded into fabric, a reminder that even the darkest symbols can be turned towards the light if the people who carry them refuse to be silent about the atrocities of the past. To wear it is to remember. To remember is to live. And to live, especially in these times, is to resist. Special thanks goes out to the following organizations whose research and careful preservation of historical record contributed greatly to making the telling of this story possible. Please consider donating to these organizations to further the work they do.